I finished oficerski kurs doskonalający administracji wojskowej. That's dwójka. That's there. Well, my father was in charge of hospital in Krakow, Army Hospital in Krakow.
Okay.
And he was sending some vans into the Lviv, which is Lviv now. And he said, well, I send you and your sister and sister's friend, 3 of us, jump on this and go to Lviv because our grandfather lived near Lviv. So, and I'll meet you there. Don't worry, I'll meet you there. So that's how we started. You can imagine going through the road, how it was. And Germans were coming. That's the first time I've seen them killing, diving, killing the people on the road itself. And we managed to get to Colomea, which is not very far from the Romanian border.
Mm-hmm.
And we waited there. I can't remember how. I remember someone coming to my sister and telling me that father is coming. He evacuated hospital or peoples, and with the bus and the families of doctors or whatever. And we met in Colomea, and from then on, we were 4 of us: my father, my mother, my stepmother, my mother, my sister, and myself. And we gone across the Romania, Dniest, river Dniest, across to Romania. That's how we started in Romania. And still on the bus, this family, in doctors' families, my family. And through the different days, we were going south all the way, stop here, there, and everywhere in private people's houses. They're accommodated them. In all fairness, poor country, but they were very welcoming us. But then on the end, they took father, because he was army major, took him to the camp, because all officers were interned. And of course, to start with, if I remember right, they gave us some money for grown up and half of money for underage, something like that. So enough to buy yourself a bread and something to eat. So we managed to get a room near father's camp, because we visit him every day on the farm. Farmer was building himself a house. He hasn't finished the house. He said, I've got a room there. There is no window, but it's the roof over the house. It's a room. So if you want to, you're welcome. I won't charge you anything, providing your son will help us when we do kill pig or anything like that. So we moved in there. We blocked the window as well as we could, and we stayed there and visit father every day. Until Germans decided, they gave in to pressure, international pressure, that medical staff and doctors should not be interned. And from then on, well, my father, we didn't, once we learned that, when we came to see my father, we asked, he said, well, what are you going to do? And father said, well, I'm not going to wait for them to release me. we're trying, there were about 4 of them. We're trying to get away. The Romanian army, I'm sorry, not that very good. We managed to get out, which he did, in all fairness. Well, he came to us, and we all just, I remember in that room, very happy that we're all together, and said, well, how can we get out? Well, out of Romania. Where do we go? Well, to France, of course, to fight Germans. But so, as it happens, France collapsed and the British government took over.
Mm-hmm.
And from then on, they paid, no, the Chilean government paid for 2 grown-ups and 2 children.
Chile?
Of all the countries. Yeah, Chile. And so you did go to, remember, a police station, and they pay you so much, you know, my mother. Anyway, so that didn't last very long because, as I said, French government gave up. British government took over, and they gave us much better money to start with. They gave us, I remember, chance of getting to Bucharest. You know, we had to go to British embassy there. If I remember, I can't remember. I remember we did go to Bucharest, and by then Germans were already everywhere in Romania, everywhere. And so father said, well, we've got to have Jewish, to make sure that we get away, let's have a Jewish papers so they can prove to Germans that we are all Jewish.
You are Catholic?
We are yes, we are Roman Catholics, of course.
Okay.
So my mother started going in Bucharest, started going around the dubious cafes, asking if there is anyone who does this sort of papers, you know, false papers. And they sent her to the again another cafe and told him what sort of man would come to contact her, and that it will cost quite a bit. Anyway, so we had the lodging in Bucharest in coal house because we couldn't pay for anything. And one Romanian family said, yes, well, we've got empty coal house if you want to stay there, you know. Anyway, so we were waiting for my mother. She's gone to see if she can find that chappie who could produce the, you know, make the false paper. What she told us, well, when she came in, she was crying. All the jewelry, my father watch, my sister rings, and all the jewelry which we had, and she offered him, and he said that's not enough. And so the passport will be ready, I don't know, 10 days or 5 days, whatever, and then you can pay me the rest. Again, that's why she came home to that place. And she was crying. She said, well, I gave him everything. I don't know him, not even his address or name. But he's taken all I had, and we have to trust him. But sure enough, after, I don't know, 5, 6 days, she had to go there. She was sitting there waiting for him. She said, he comes in for passport. He threw on her, he said, there you are, you're all Jewish. And your father was a teacher in Chernauchi, that's what he stated. So we all have all Jewish passports. She was so pleased. And she said, all I had, I think she had father's watch. And said, would you take that? And he said, no. Would you pay it enough? and turn around and walk away.
Wow.
So that just shows you you can't judge people by look at them. So she was very joyful. Came home. I remember us today. But we all happy. We've got all we have to do, find the boat. British government, we have to approach them. If they could find us the boat that would take us to British possession, one of the British possession, because France, of course, collapsed. And in Syria, which belongs to France, it was created Polish Independent Carpathian Brigade. But of course, everything collapsed, so the Poles took the vans, took the armament, uniforms. They said, blow you, we're going to Britain. They tried to stop them, but of course the Poles turned the guns on them and they said, right, we have ding dong if you want to. And so they said, no, we rather not. And they let them cross to the British army, to the British possession in Palestine there. In the meantime, we've gone to Turkey. We arrived to Turkey. Turkey didn't recognize occupation of Poland by Germany, and they have Polish representative, Polish officer in uniform meeting us. But Turkish government said everybody can come out, but not Jews. So of course you start throwing all the documents, Jewish documents, and prove that you are Roman Catholic, which of course wasn't difficult because our father being army and representative who met us was the army as well. So of course we were proven that we are not Jewish. We managed to get to we were sent to Constanza, which is Romanian port, and there was the boat, the name Kalodia. Well, I don't think it was hardly seaworthy, but that was the only thing. Where is it going? Oh, Cyprus. Well, but of course, as it happens, didn't manage to get to Cyprus. It's gone to Bosphorus. Unloaded us because it was leaking, so we are in Turkey. All the time we are looking after British government now. We stayed there for 5 days, and from then on the boat arrived. I don't know, but if I'm not mistaken, sent by British. We were not the only one to collect us and take us to Cyprus. Well, eventually that happened. We did go on that boat. We arrived to Cyprus. First time I've seen the British army. And from Cyprus, we stayed there overnight and full of Jewish refugees. The boat was full of Jewish, but we squeezed in as well, and we landed in Haifa, in Palestine. Well, as soon as we landed in Haifa, there was the Polish representative, Polish army representative. There was British people as well. They took me away straight away. I said, well, I want to join the Carpathian Army. They arrived here from Syria. Oh, yes. Straight away, I was enlisted, got uniform.
How old were you?
That was about just under 17.
Okay.
Yeah. 17, just under 18, I dare say, because, under 18, sorry. And that's why I joined the Polish Carpathian Brigade, and from then on, as it happens, I had malaria. They called my father and my sister And they told me, start praying because we haven't got anything to help. He's losing weight so rapidly that any time it could be the end. As it happens, few days later, medicine which was discovered here in this country against malaria arrived there. And so they send us separate, 8 of us, all with malaria, no fatigues, no nothing, separate tent away from our company, and you can do as you like. We see how it works, if it works. Well, obviously it worked because I'm still here. So that's how it started.
Great.
Petyan Brigade, let's face it, they were all people who managed to escape from Poland, like myself, but before me. And they started with the division and eventually made Captain General Kopański was in charge of it. And we were in access with them all the time. Yes, in Palestine and in Egypt, El Agami, and yes, so that's and well, part of them went, of course, to Tobruk, the siege of Tobruk, and they managed to get, and that's how they met Australians, because they relieved Australians. Australians were there almost a year, if I'm not mistaken. It's a dreadful condition. How they lasted, I don't know. But I don't know Tobruk from that time, but after the war, I've been how they lasted. But most of the dugouts were done by Italians, so they took over, and so it wasn't too bad. But that was desert life, of course. But from then on, of course, Polish Carpathian Brigade relieved Australian in Tobruk, and so they practically carry them on their arms, they were so pleased to see Poles coming. And from then on, they made really good friends as two armies. Finished officer school and finish, of course, in Polish army. When you finish school, you get Lance Corporal. That's all you get. You don't get immediately, nomination. So as a cadet officer, Lance Corporal, I was sent to all over the place. Syria, yes, near Damascus. Jebel Mazar, yes, near Damascus, into camp. But I never did take action in Tobruk itself, because part of our brigade was there. And then by volunteer, they wanted volunteers for Air Force, Special Forces, and paratroopers. So I thought I'll go and join that, being young, you've got ideas. And so I volunteered. They checked me and they said, you have to wait in Suez for the boat to come and collect you. The boat is coming from Australia, Ile-de-France. And boat, a very, very big boat, a very fast boat, with all the families from Singapore and all that. So we joined, there's quite a few of us. We joined the boat, and of course after 5 days or 6 days, after refilling and everything, off we go to England. We arrived to Atlantic. Early morning, there is alarm. U-boats are waiting for us. There were 3 U-boats waiting across the Atlantic there for us. We turned around and finished in Rio de Janeiro.
Wow.
South America, so you can imagine.
You went the other way.
Absolutely other way. Gosh, well, of course, you can imagine South America. Everybody, music, light, nighttime, everybody happy. You know, it's unbelievable. Well, unfortunately, only 6 days. That's all. And there were quite a few volunteers, Polish patriots wanted to join Polish army. So we took them with us to England. And strangely enough, after 6 days, we just turned around right across again to Sierra Leone in Africa. Mm-hmm. And from Sierra Leone, we picked up the boat which was after us, was hit by Germans and people who were rescued. And we picked them as well, among my colleagues. And we went straight, cheekily, next to Spain, all the way to Scotland. And I was sent to Glasgow, which was, as local people say, Polish Gestapo school. It was school cichociemnych, what they call it. Well, you know, cichociemny.
Yes, of course.
That's right. All the, you know, poisoning people, opening the door, you know, things like that, you know, and how to kill people quietly and different, very interesting things. My commanding officer was Colonel Meyer, Stephen Meyer, very strict. And of course I arrived, my course, which I mentioned to you before in Kinross, when I arrived, I was, I think, 3 days late. And of course I was called to my colonel's office, and he dressed me down from top to bottom. He had, we want only volunteers who are willing, and all this, you know. I said, if you're late, I couldn't say that I was late because the course hasn't finished, and I didn't have a chance to say a word. And he really dressed me down. And then, of course, Breck came, he opens the door, and all the officers are standing there. And he soon eyes to me, oh, there is a newcomer, comes from Kinross, Rasserat. I said, good God, can you change so quick? But he was a very, very good officer. Very well, of course, he was in Dwójka in Poland. As it happens, he was at school with my father.
So, who else do you remember from that?
Oh, yes. What's his name? Yes, well, I must mention that's the most unusual coincidence. We had a course in photography as well, how to develop, how to, you know, enlarge photographs and things. And if you want to copy the photographs, there was one day, and we all there. And I brought my photographs. I said, what sort of photograph? I had a very nice photograph of the lady who was a singer. And when I was in Romania as a refugee, we share this. We were in the same place, Baile Govora, which was a little holiday resort, Romanian holiday resort, and she was with her mother. And she was rather struggling, so whatever she wanted, I would help her, you know, help them in the shopping and things to buy, you know, and things like that. Anyway, so I've got one of the photographs here, dressed properly, because she gave, in Romania, she gives concert. And so I've had one of the photographs, I copied that. And there I am copying, stand in the tray, photograph. Next to me is Major, what's his name? Can't remember his name, her name. Well known. Anyway, he comes, He said, good God, what have you got there? I said, a photograph, and they mentioned the lady's name. I said, it's my wife. And I said, you can't be believe she was there with her mother, an elderly person. Yes, we were only married 2 weeks. I said, oh, could you tell me? Well, still asking, all the details and how they said, yes, she's right, no problem at all. They just managing, obviously it's not easy, but just managing. And she gives concert and Romania take over. So, her moving around, she has a concert. So everything, oh, well, that just shows you coincidence, how it can happen. All the different things we learn is unbelievable. Oh, no, it was quite.
That's when we were walking around Glasgow, and
exactly.
We walked past this door, and Dad said, "Oh, that's where Dr. someone lived.
Hartman.
He taught us how to poison people."
Yeah, Dr. Hartman.
And when your dad says that to you in the middle of Glasgow, you think, well, hang on, what did you do during the war?
Yes, he was telling us how to put what sort of poison put. All different. There was Captain Cabos. He was expert on all the locks. German locks, French locks, American locks. And actually, they wanted me to stay there as an instructor because, again, I've got a smykałka in my fingers. I could open a yellow lock. I can open really with a bit of wire and things. I can open a yellow lock. So that was it. That's another thing, and a lot of physical as well. You have to jump and how to break the neck. People with nice things, of course, also. That's cichociemnie for you. From Bletchley came Captain Shatno, who was in Russian part of school, and he gave us some demonstration how what it means to break the little puzzle they had. There are quite a few of us there sitting, and said, well, lunchtime coming, I'll give you little question, see if you can answer and if you can break this. A simple thing. So of course we all had that, and I, instead of going for a lunch, I quickly start working, and as it happens, I managed to break it. And I remember then dashing back to our headquarters, and in charge was there Colonel Mayer, and said, well, you're coming, what's happened, you've come to... I said, I think I managed to break it. Well, Captain Shatno was there. By the way, it's very democratic, very democratic place, because all officers, under officers and private, everybody was one dining room,
Okay.
So that I was next, as it happens, I was next to Colonel Mayer sitting there, but his driver was sitting opposite there. I was 20 by then.
So that's 9.
Okay.
I was by 20 because, by the way, I forgot to tell you, when I arrived to England, they asked me, because I was cadet officer, Lance Corporal, with all these volunteers from Rio de Janeiro, to take them to Blackpool to Air Force. And I thought, well, instead of going to Cichociemne, I go to Air Force as well. So I took them with me, and of course we went to the headquarters there, and we presented ourselves and documents, and Sergeant came to me and said, "Excuse me, sir," calling me sir. And I said, "That's most unusual." He called me sir. He said, "You are so," and he was Ferdinand Stanisław Wanke, born so and so. I said, "Yes, yes. My father was also, but he left. He is still in Egypt." And said, "Well, we have the pleasure to inform you that you are second lieutenant." So I nearly collapsed. So you can imagine, so unfortunately you cannot join the Air Force because there were rules that when you commission, you cannot join from Army to Air Force. Anyway, so that was it. So I had to go back to signals, which was in Achtermachti. And everybody then, Colonel, there was another, Colonel Kiev. He was very surprised. "So you left us the private and you come back as officers." So, anyway, so that's how it started. And from then on, I packed in. Oh yes, I'm sorry, I didn't finish the story.
Yeah.
When Captain Schachno seen what I've done, he said, "That's very quick. Have you ever done that before?" I said, "No, just luck." He said, "Well, that's very good because nobody yet, of all the people I gave this puzzle to, nobody yet came, so you are the first one. How would you like to work in Bletchley?" That was Boxmoor. I said, "What is it?" So he explained to me. He said, "Do you know Russian?" Well, I knew Russian a bit. And he said, "We need someone to help sorting out all the messages coming." And he explained to me, it's a small unit. It's about 10 of us. And you will be 11s. And we are on our own. Very easy going, very good. So I thought, yeah, but why not? So I arrived to Boxmoor. I can't remember the date. Anyway, I arrived to Boxmoor, reported myself there, and started working in Bletchley. They were introducing me how codes are working, how Russian are arranging their code, and what to look for to start with, which most likely with Russian it's always swear word on the end of a message. Very nice message on the air, very crude, dreadful swear word, which I couldn't believe it. I said, "What in army?" "Oh yes, to them, you for you much. That's normal signature, And I said that people sending it, officers sending it, yes, that's how they did it. Anyway, and there was quite a few best telegraphists from Air Force, Navy, and Army, and they were all there. And every morning you arrive, and there was a pile of the papers lying there. You sorted that out, and then start working. And you could, there was very easy timing. If you want to work overnight, you could stay overnight and take daytime time off, So that's how I stayed there, and I stayed there to the very end of the war in Bletchley. That was 11 of us. I think, I was by 3 years the youngest, so I doubt it. So obviously I'm the last one. One or two I know what's happened to them, but the rest I have no idea.
And there was one name missing from the Bletchley report.
From the Bletchley report, on the very end, there was Second Lieutenant Tadeusz Stankiewicz.
Tadeusz Stankiewicz.
Stankiewicz. He was on this one what my son gave me, and he was missing.
That's the same report that you mentioned earlier. Dad has seen
the
that.
report. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. Felden House, that's all I remember, and I thought it was slightly up the hill over sort of fields from the Boxmer station. We had, it's quite a very, very big building, villa, and we had all the meals there. Well, sorry, no, because breakfast, I remember officers were placed in the private houses.
Mm-hmm.
All over the place. I was in Boxmoor, I think, but a lot of them were in Hemel Hempstead and around there with the families. And every morning, early morning, you just went to work and back. That's all. That's all I remember. I remember Boxmoor Station. Just to me, it was very small. And very close to it, there was a White Horse pub, which we used to frequent. I think I wasn't sure it was White Lion or White Horse. I'm sure it was White Horse. So that was our place. And apart from that, but this wasn't so democratic. There were only officers there, commanding officers. Major he was Major Zielinski, and all the officers, very long time, I remember that. And it wasn't as democratic as in Glasgow with Colonel Mayer. It always somehow that we were part of Bletchley Park.
Okay.
Yeah, always. But where it was and then it was, I did find out myself by mistake once because I took wrong bus. But otherwise, I didn't know even when Bletchley was then.
Mm-hmm.
That's interesting.
But since then, of course, I've been a few times. Well, of course, I've got the freedom of Bletchley Park now, because British government did send me the papers.
But then it was not like there was day-to-day contact with Bletchley Park. It was
no, we didn't.
Remote.
No, we did not. We were not in touch with Bletchley Park. Well, at least not on my level.
Okay.
Perhaps so. Yeah.
You remember?
I remember out of 11, I remember them all now. I remember them all. Captain Major Zielinski, I remember very well. Well, he wasn't involved in. He was more or less admin only. But Captain Schaffner, most peculiar chap, translating Talmud or something like that. Anyway, so that was Schaffner. I remember him. I remember how he looks like, even. Yes, I remember. Well, I remember Stankiewicz. I remember Wisniewski. I remember Wisniewski. Very similar names. And remember Kawecki. Dominic. Yes, I remember them all. Okay. And from then on, we were moved. Well, apart from anything else, you had to swear to Queen that you will not divulge, the secret. We were moved to Scotland, which I tried to find in Cardross. My son took me there, but of course it's straight now. It's all gone.
Sorry, this is after Bletchley.
No, that is after Bletchley.
Okay.
That was well after Bletchley. Right, okay. But from Bletchley, we were sent to Glasgow to Kirkcaldy. From Kirkcaldy, we were sent to Glasgow. From Glasgow, we were sending us, and from Glasgow, we were sent to Cardross, that's all in Scotland, not far from Glasgow. And from Cardross, we were sent, where did we say? Forfar. From Forfar, oh God. From Forfar, we were sent to not Dunfermline.
Dumfries?
No. Anyway, no, for Forfar, that was it may be another camp, but I can't remember. Anyway, they wanted some volunteers for record office, Whitley, where Polish Army record office. So I said to my friend, who was paratrooper, Wysocki, I said to him, listen, we're sitting in these camps doing nothing. It's ridiculous. We may as well do something and go there. So we volunteered and we did go, and I landed in Whitley camp, Polish Army record office. But as you know, the British government decided that all Polish forces members are entitled to have a British citizenship if they want to stay.
Yes.
As it happens, on the end, I did take my own official papers so really I'm British now. They did arrive in 943. They arrived. Oh,
Okay.
They arrived in 43. Yes. And not Różecki, because Różecki was killed in.
Yes.
Yeah, but yes, Zygalski and Nergalski, yes, as lieutenants, yes, very much to themselves, and very much above you.
Okay.
You know, well, obviously, but yes, remember them in the Cardross? They had separate barracks. Yes. Colonel Mayer was in charge there. No, they were always, they never took any part at all. That's as well. Yeah, I remember that their hut was next to our hut, so I remember that very well. But no, they were not really very mixing. We were always either playing netball or something else, this sort of thing. They didn't take any part in activities at all. They were always together.
Always together. Okay.
Zygalski was more sort of friendly always, and well, and had very big eyes for girls, but Rajewski, no. And Rajewski always, I remember at lunchtime we had our own table, and they were sitting with us, and Rajewski always said that I'm definitely going back to Poland. But Zygalski said, yes, that's where we say goodbye. And of course, Zygalski, Zygalski was lecturing higher mathematics on university, London University. But, and Rajewski is gone. Well, and most of the people from what you call it, Polish Gestapo school from Glasgow, Cichociemny, most of them went to Poland, but of course, it wasn't Germans, it was Russian then, and a lot of them finished in, far away.
Yeah.
That's all I can remember. It's not easy when you're 102, believe me. On duty, I once was sent to Ancona, to headquarters, Polish headquarters.
Okay.
But otherwise, I just and then of course I went again. What's its name? Can't remember. Anyway, I asked if I could stay a little longer in Italy, and Colonel, oh God, the names are. And he said yes, and he gave me 2 weeks holiday, sort of pass, leave. He said you can go and see your parents in Bari, Casamassima Hospital. Casamassima, remember that? Can't remember his bloody name. Casamas. And so I went to, was shocked because they didn't know I was coming. Knock on the door. Father came to the door. So yes, so I spent a few days there, and then went back to Scotland.
And then you all ended up in the UK.
And you all yes, and then Schlude came, I think about half a year later, as well, to England, to. I don't know, Wiltshire, in Wiltshire. Yeah. Okay. Yes, and that's when it started. And civil life, as it happens, of course, as I mentioned, I was with my friend Wysocki in Whitley Camp, a record office, and eventually said, well, we have to start looking for something. Where there was offer of job, cartographer in South America, in a British embassy or something, and they wanted 2 people. So we nearly did go. However, my partner said, I don't want to go somewhere. And there was an offer in Canada as a lumberjack. I said, are you crazy? Me and a lumberjack. I couldn't lift the axe, never mind. But he said, you soon learn.
Yeah.
And anyway, so we decided, as it happens, he had a camera and I had a Leica camera. And there was an advert in one of the papers that they want people to take the photographs on the River Trent embankment in Nottingham. It's Crown photographers. So I said, right, let's apply, see if they take. Well, as it happens, said, yes, we want 2 people. As it happens, if you want to stay, yes. So that's how it started. And I started there. We were for a year. And after the year, we decided we may as well do something of our own. So we managed to get the camera and employ a few people. Well, on the end, we employed about 6 people, 7 people. Yes, and we started taking photographs, school photographs, all over England. That's it now. And then my partner died, and I'm still here. Well, I was to join the army. I was told to do this. I was told to do that. So I was doing it. That's it. Yeah. I'm not a hero. But the only blessing that I've got this, I don't know. Oh yes, I've got to tell you something, which is perhaps not but of interest. When we left Poland, as I mentioned to you, my sister, myself, and her friend, also Irene. So we always stuck together. Well, to cut the story short, my sister was, as I told you, nurse. And other Irene, she was a nurse as well. And I would join the army. Well, my sister died last year, almost 102.
She was 103.
So I phoned other Irene. She emigrated to Australia. She married and she died 101. And I'm here, 100. and 2 and 8
And a half.
8 months. I never met anybody that old. How can it come that there are 3 people together and together?
Tough
So
generation.
you must. People say you must have been eating something together. Or I always say whatever is given up from the top, you cannot change it.
Mm.
That's all there is to it.
You remember a lot of things.
Yes, we are very impressed that you remember
Yeah.
so much.
Whiskey is the secret.
Oh, that's okay. I will try it.
That's a good advice.
Yeah. That's a good advice, maybe for today.